Hi YouTube, and welcome to another video. Thank you for joining me again in our quilt series. We're going to go ahead and go to another part of the quilt series. I hope you've been enjoying the quilt series and the little extra videos that I've been putting out to make sure that you were able to see the screen, and also to make sure that you were able to try to figure out what types of fabrics that you can use. I did a video showing you some different quilting fabrics at Joann's Fabric. So I hope you enjoy those. So we'll go ahead and get started, but first we'll go to the word of the Lord, and then we'll get started in cutting our fabric for this portion of the quilt. All right. So the word of the Lord today is going to come from the book of Jude. Jude only has one chapter, and we're going to be reading verses 24 and 25. So it reads as, "Now unto him that is able to keep you from falling and to present you faultless before the presence of his glory with exceedingly joy, to the only wise God, our Savior, be glory and majesty, dominion and power, both now and forever. Amen." Thank you for joining me for the word of the Lord. Turn my phone. Yeah. So today we're going to be cutting and sewing this part of the quilt. We're going to do this on the machine, and the part that we're going to do with the needle and thread that I showed you is sew the circles onto our background fabric. I did complete all of my circles. Here are all of my circles already completed and pressed down to the back of the background. I've already shown you how to do that part. If you missed it, if you're new here and you want to know how we did this, how we did these, go to parts 1, 2, and 3. Because I got a phone call in the middle of it, so I broke it up into a couple of different parts. But that's how you can see how to get this part. On the next video, I'll come back and show you how to hand sew these down with the supplies that I showed you in the supply video. But this portion of the quilt is going to be done with the machine. And I have, I think I have 15 blocks. Let's see, let me get this quilt. That's the big one. I want the little one. This is the big one. I'm going to do the little one. We're just going to do, I have a small one like this as well, but we're just only going to do 15 blocks, I think it was. And so this is the really, really big one. I have a smaller one, but we're not going to make it this big. We're going to go 15 blocks. So you'll just, if you want to make yours bigger, you can, because it'll be the same technique to make it all as, let me see if I put it in there. Nope, I didn't put it in there. But yeah, it'll be the same technique to make it. So we're going to make a smaller one. But this is what we're going to make. This is the circle block. This is the I call it an 8-patch. So let's see. All right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put the camera down. Okay, so here it is. Remember we cut the 6-inch strip off of this. And if you didn't see that part, go back to the video. And you can see where we cut a 6-inch piece off of here. And then we cut it in half and we use it to make our circle block. So this is what we had left over from one of them. Now this one was just 5 fat quarters. I didn't have the 2 fat quarters to start with, like I showed you in the video at Joann's, where you can get bundle 1, bundle 2, and then get the jelly rolls. This was just a 5 fat quarter. I did have the jelly roll because here are the other fabrics. Let's see, is this the one? I think this is the other fabrics that went along with the line. Let's see, is that them? Oh no, these, I think it was these. So there was 2 bundles to this one as well. And I got these out of the scraps that I showed you that I made a quilt, and these were my leftovers. So this is what the other set of fabrics look like, the bundle 2. But I had it in a jelly roll. I didn't have it in the in fat quarters like this. So I'm going to use a couple of these to go along with my strips. So here is my rotary cutter, and here is my ruler. Now for this, we're going to cut these strips the same as this, which these are 2.5 inches in the jelly roll I showed you. I was going to use this jelly roll, but I've decided not to. I decided just to use the stuff in my scrap box, or just use up one jelly roll and see how far that will get me. So we're going to cut these at 2.5 inches. Now what I would do first, I would make my circles first, get all my circles first, and then with my leftover fabric, I would cut out my strips to make my strip piecing. So this is going to be 2.5 inches. And remember, measure twice, cut once. That way you don't make a mistake. So this is 2.5, 2.5, and I'm going to cut this strip 2.5. Okay. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut another one, because I don't think you're going to need that much. I'm thinking that 1 fat quarter will do, but if you want a bigger variety, 2 fat quarters will give you a bigger variety of fabrics in your quilt. If you just use 1, you'll see a lot of the same fabrics repeated in your project. So I'm going to cut another one. So I cut 2 strips out of that one that I had left over that I cut a 6-inch piece off of. Now this is another piece, but I had to cut another 6 inches off of this one because I only had 1 bundle. I didn't have 2 to cut, like to give me a more variety. So that's why this one is so much smaller than this one was, because I cut 2 6-inch strips off of these 3, but I only cut one 6-inch strip off of these 2. And that's on the previous video, so you can go check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and cut, see how many I can get out of here, so I know I can get at least one 2.5-inch strip off of this fabric. Remember, measure twice, cut once. 2.5, 2.5. So I'm only going to be able to get one 2.5-inch strip off the one that I cut 3 off of. Okay. So now out of that, I was able to get only, let's see, I was only able to get, this is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 strips. And then I can get more strips out of that, but I want a little bit of variety. And then there was a few little pieces left over from when I cut the other fabric. So if you have these little tiny pieces like this, what you can do is you can use either a 2.5-inch square if you have one, and I cut this on my glow forge because I make purses, and this is my gusset size for my large purses. And then I also cut this one, and this is my gusset size for my small purses. And I just engraved that in there and put a color in there. But these strips are 2.5 inches. So if you have a 2.5-inch little ruler like that, you could definitely stack up some of your fabrics if you have some little extras left over. And you can always cut a 2.5-inch piece off of that. Be careful with your rotary cutter. Always close it when you're done so you don't have. So if you wanted another variety, or if you had some fabrics that matched it, you definitely could cut 2.5 inch squares to go with your fabric. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to start to sew them. So I'm also going to use those extra ones that I found from my previous quilt that go with this fabric line. So just so I can have a little variety, because it's not going to take very much to do the other part of the quilt, to do the little. It's not going to take very much to do this. So let's go to the machine and sew these strips together. All right. Okay, so I'm just going to turn my machine on. I've already taken my embroidery foot off of my machine. I've already taken the embroidery unit off, and I've also taken off the embroidery foot, and I just have my regular foot on there. And I'm going to set my machine up to give me a 1/4 inch stitch. So what that looks like is I set my width to 6.5 and I set my length to 2.5 or 2 inches. And I'm just going to sew with the straight stitch. On this baby lock, I'm going to be using my J foot, and it's going to be at the number up at the top is 1-01. So that's with the foot all the way. I mean, on the little screen, it's with the needle pointed all the way over to the left. But I'm going to adjust it so I can get a 1/4 inch. So my 1/4 inch says, well, it's already set because I use mine so much on the 1/4 inch, it just automatically comes in with it. So it tells me that I need a 6.5 with the 2.0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take two fabrics, any two fabrics, and put them right sides together. Any two fabrics. This one, and I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to put them right sides together, which means pretty sides. These are the backs of it. These are the fronts of it. So right sides, well, that's the back of that one, but that's the front of that one. Right sides together. I'm going to take these two fabrics, and then I'm going to put them on under my presser foot. And because I have my machine already set at 6.5, I'm going to go ahead and sew. Let me get my foot down here. And I'm just going to sew that all the way down. I'm just keeping the edges lined up. I hope you can see that, and I'm just going to sew that all the way down. I'm going to sew all the way down. And then I'm going to take two more pieces, and I'm going to do the same thing. And I'm going to sew them all the way down. Like this one was cut with my rotary cutter, and this was one of the fat quarters because it has the pink edge, but that doesn't matter. Just put them right sides together and just continue to sew. And I'm doing what's called chain piecing. I'm not breaking the thread. I'm just sewing them just one after the other. And I'm just going to sew two strips together, and then I'm going to subcut those and put some of them together to make the 8 patch. So I'll just kind of show you what that's going to look like. Put these two together. And some of them have like a little salvage at the back of it. That's this little piece at the white piece at the top. So you can match those up so you can cut that part off. So it's that part over here and that part over there. Put the fabrics right sides together, pretty sides together. And I'm going to go from the top. Pretty sides together and just sew down the side. Now whatever, you have to know what type of machine you have and what your presser foot is to get 1/4 inch. I'm using 6.5 on my machine with the stitch length of 2.5. So just sew them down, and then we'll sew one more to get a little bit of a variety, and then we'll go and we'll subcut. Let's do one more. Let's see, let's take this fabric, and let's see, excuse me, let's take this fabric, and let's take this one. We'll take these two. We'll find the salvages of both of them. There's the salvage of that one at the top and the salvage of this one. I'm going to put them together, but I'm going to turn them over because I prefer the salvages at the bottom. It's just a preference. Doesn't matter. It's just my preference. Then I'm going to put these together. Now sometimes the ones with the pinking shears can be a little bit wider, but this is a very forgiving quilt, so you can just cut some of that off if it doesn't work out. Sometimes those pinking shears make the block just a little bit bigger. All right, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to cut my thread. Now I have these that I've sewn together. So now we're going to go back to the cutting table, and we're going to cut these apart. I'll meet you at the cutting table. Let's see if you can see. Yep, you can see. So I'm just going to cut these apart. My table is messy. Yes, it's messy. So I'm just going to cut these apart right here at where I stitched them together at. Just cut them apart and cut it apart. So now I have 4 sets with, all of them have different fabrics. So we have those 2. We have those 2. We have these 2. Let's see. And we have these 2. So I'm going to take these to the iron, and I'm going to iron them. Let's see. Do we have another one? Yeah. Oh, and we have this one too, because we have 4. And we have this one. So I'm going to take these to the iron, and I'm going to iron them all. So let me move you around over here. Just gonna see if you can see my little ironing station right here. Here's my little ironing station. And my iron's always on, so I just put it down to get it hot again. And we're just going to press these seams. You could press it to the dark or to the light. Doesn't really matter. It's only a 4 patch. Doesn't really matter. Most people press it to the dark. Not hot enough yet, so I'm just finger pressing it until the iron gets hot enough, and I'm pressing the seam to the dark. So I'm just waiting until my iron gets hot enough for me to fully press it. Right now I'm just pressing to one side. Okay, now my iron is hot enough. And I'm just going to press that flat. Press it flat. Press it. I'm going to take this one and press it. This is a really easy quilt. Once you get the hang of it, if you already know how to quilt, it's simple shapes. Simple. So we'll press these two right here. And the series might be a little long, but once you get the hang of it, you'll do the things in steps, and it won't take as long. It'll go a lot faster for you once you get the techniques down. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that one going. And we have one more. Where did our last one go? Oh, I think it fell. Did it fall on the floor? Let's see. We have one. Oh, no, here it is right here. So we're going to have 4 sets. And we want to press this one to the darker one. So, and the reason why people press to the dark sometimes, because if you have really, really light fabrics, you might be able to see through the seam through the lighter side. So people just get into the habit of pressing stuff to the darker fabric. So once we get those all pressed, then we're going to take it back to our cutting mat. And what I like to do is I like to line up a couple of them. I might line it up down underneath the bottom. Just going to line up a couple. We'll just do 2 for right now. And I'm going to take my ruler. I'm going to cut off just the front portion of it because I want it to have my edges. So I'm just going to cut this part off. And then I'm going to take and line this back up now that I have 2 good edges. And I'm going to subcut this into 2.5-inch sections. So let's see, 2.5-inch sections, measure twice, cut once. 2.5, that's 2, and then this one will be 2.5. And then you'll just cut them up, but hopefully you'll have way more of a variety than I have. Let's see, 2.5. And then we'll take and start cutting some of these. So let's cut some of these. Yep, this one's pretty straight on the end, so I'm not going to square it up. It's pretty straight on both of the ends. I'm just going to go ahead and cut my 2.5-inch sections. So let's see. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut these at 2.5 as well. So let's move this one over just a wee bit. Okay, 2.5. Measure twice, cut once. And then we're going to take it and we're going to cut a couple of more sections at 2.5. And I'm just lining up my 2.5 there and lining up one of my lines across here, 2.5. And using my rotary cutter. And let's do one more. Two and a half. Okay, we'll save that. So now we have these 2.5-inch sections. 2.5. So now we'll take these back to the machine. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to sew these together. So now you have these little sections. So if you take them and you have seams on the back, If you take the seams and you nest them in the opposite directions, they should lock together. One seam going up, like this seam is going up, and this seam is going down. See how that goes? And then you just put them together. You can stick a pin in it if you like. I don't normally sew with pins unless I have a super long row. And then you just put those together, and you're gonna sew those two. Same 6 1/4 inch for me. That gets me my size that I want. So I'm sewing those together. Now I'm gonna do another one. And like I said, the more fabric choices that you have, make sure one seam goes up and one seam goes down. And this one, these pinking sheer ones, they're like a little bit longer, so I might have to cut a little bit of that off. No, let me see. I'm not going to use that one right now. Let's see. I'll use this one. Oh, that one's the same. Let's use this one. Okay. These two are going up, so I'm going to just switch one of them to go down. So I'll have seams going in both directions. Seams going in both directions. And I'm going to cut those apart. And I'm going to use my rotary cutter. And no, I'm just going to use the side of my machine. There's a thread cutter over there. So now I have a 4-patch. And now I have another 4-patch. So if I took these two 4-patches and did the same thing with the seams, one seam going up and one seam going down. Let's do this side. One seam going up and one seam going down. If I nest those together, then I can sew that. And now I have my 8-patch that goes to the other part of the block. So this is this little section right here. It's just a 8-patch. So that's what you would get. So this is what you would sew to the bottom of your block once you got them all done. I'm gonna go ahead and sew this one to the bottom of this block, but you would wait and do all of your blocks first, and you would hand sew this down before you did this step. But I'm just going to show you how it would go if we did have our circle already fully attached, which we don't, but we're going to just do it anyway, just so you'll know if you want to go ahead. Let's see, because if you want to stitch yours down by machine, which like I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to stitch mine down by hand, and I'm going to do a tutorial on how I do it. And then I'm going to just attach this to the block. And then there you would have your full block. And then you have 8 different pieces of fabric in there. So then you would take it and sew it. So I mean, take it and press it. So I'm going to go ahead and press this. I don't know, you probably can't see me, but I'm just going to go ahead and press it. And your seams, once you put this block together, you're not going to have to worry about your seams, because you're going to turn the blocks in opposite directions, and the seams are not going to match when you sew them up block to block. So this is what your block is going to look like, and then we will sew them all together. But our next video is going to be me coming back and showing you how to hand stitch this down with the thread that I showed you in the other video. So stay tuned for that. If you want to go ahead and do it by machine, if you do yours by machine, be my guest. But I don't do it by machine, I do it by hand. But you're free to do it by machine if you like. So I hope this helps you, but this process is really super simple. Just remember, you're going to either have some jelly roll strips that are already 2.5 inches, or if you start with the fat quarters and don't buy the jelly rolls, you're going to cut your own 2.5 inch strips. You're going to sew those strips together in sets of 2 only. And then I guess you could do it in 4s if you want it all the same, but you could mix and match if you do just 2 fabrics. And you can even cut it in half for a bigger variety if that's what you want. And then you're going to subcut this into 2.5 inch segments. And then you're going to take these and you're going to sew them together. And you're going to have one seam go up and one seam go down. And when you sew it together, you're just going to sew it together like that. And you're going to put 2 of these together and 2 of them together is going to make this. So I hope this helps. And like this one's a little bit longer, so I'll probably just trim off that little pinking sheer part right there. But I hope this helps. And I hope you enjoy this next part of our tutorial. Come back when we do the tutorial to stitch down the circle by hand to our background. And then once we do the background, then I'll make all my little pieces for the 4 patches and I'll sew them together like this. So thank you for watching. God bless. You have an awesome and an amazing day. Be blessed, my friends. Bye-bye.